The Stig is one of the most recognisable characters not just in motoring television history, but TV as a whole.
All we know is he's called the Stig. The Stig!
I think it might be Stiggy Ray Cyrus.
The idea, dreamt by Jeremy Clarkson and executive producer Andy Willman, has taken on a life of its own, and the Stig is now one of the most recognisable characters in today's popular culture. A few people have donned the famous outfit over the years, and since Jeremy revealed the identity of the third full-time Stig, we can now complete the Stig timeline. Some say he was an alien, and that he had a varied music taste given to him by a pube-head presenter. All we know is, this is the story of the Stig. Bzz. In 2002, Jeremy Clarkson and Andy Willman were putting together the foundations for what would become Top Gear, and they wanted a permanent test driver to lap road cars and coach celebrities in the reasonably priced car. So they needed someone fast and, more importantly, available.
Hello, my name's Perry McCarthy. I'm an ex-racing driver.
Perry McCarthy, named as possibly the unluckiest driver in racing history, had his shot at F1 with the Andrea Moda team, and let's just say, the team weren't exactly a professional and efficient outfit. He only entered 10 Grand Prix and failed to qualify for all of them. He then went on to test F1 machinery for Benetton and Williams before calling it quits on F1. After a short retirement, he returned to endurance racing with various manufacturers and teams. It was at the launch of his book Flat Out, Flat Broke, Formula 1 the Hard Way, when Perry was approached by Jeremy and Andy, asking him to be part of their new TV show. So Perry came on board as the first Stig, donned in all black. He only lasted 2 series before his character was killed off. Now, there's plenty of conjecture about what actually caused Perry and Top Gear to split ways, but here's the basics based on stories told from both sides. Perry states he never explicitly revealed his identity to anyone. The Top Gear team countered this by saying that he did reveal his identity to some people. Perry felt like he wasn't getting paid enough and trademarked the Stig name, then approached the BBC with a proposal to work together on merchandising. Top Gear and the BBC didn't like this and didn't even humour the conversation, quickly deciding that his services were no longer needed. So Top Gear killed off Black Stig in the first episode of Series 3 by shooting him off the end of an aircraft carrier. And to make sure people realised this was a new Stig, they introduced their all-new, all-white Stig. Ben Collins was a semi-successful racing driver at the time, having competed in a variety of different racing series and had even appeared on Top Gear a couple of times when they needed stunt drivers for various challenges. Come 2003, he attended a track test hosted by Andy Willman and stood out for not just his speed but consistency. Driving a simple Ford Focus, he only did a handful of laps until he could go no faster, and after putting his stopwatch away, Willman told Ben he'd be in touch. A few months down the line, Ben is given the role of the new Stig. Collins didn't just set lap times, he made the Stig a character. On screen he became the silent, mechanical driving machine Top Gear fans grew obsessed with. He starred both as the Stig and himself on many of the show's films, including racing a bowler Wildcat against a teenager on a skateboard as himself, facing off in Top Gear versus a German car show as Stig, and that memorable Caterham challenge where Clarkson, May and Hammond tried to build a Caterham, which was chaos.
James! What? Stop filing!
While he calmly drove one from Surrey to Scotland. And in the race across London, Clarkson in a speedboat, Hammond on a bicycle and James in a Mercedes, it was really Ben in the Stig suit that day, slumming it on the public transport system. Perry McCarthy might have been the first one to wear the suit, but it was Collins who truly defined the character. He stripped away any trace of humanity, replacing it with a single-minded-like creature, these oddly mechanical gestures that made the Stig feel less like a man and more like some sort of driving robot.
It's just stopped working.
Behind the scenes, Collins' role expanded. In And On That Bombshell by Richard Porter, he states that Clarkson began discussing with Collins for his input on speed, handling, realistic reactions, and that the Stig quietly became more than a driver in a helmet, a trusted advisor if you will. But while he drove everything from hatchbacks to hypercars and trained all the celebrity stars, Collins couldn't benefit from Top Gear's success in the way the presenters did. The Stig was anonymous, and so was he. He had the best CV in the world, but he couldn't use it. As Top Gear exploded into a global hit, hiding his identity became impossible, until one night, with paparazzi flashing pictures, one photographer managed to flash through the visor. This photo really was the start of the end for Ben's tenure as the Stig, so the Top Gear team made one last-ditch effort to throw people off the scent. For the first episode of Series 13, the crew had something special up their sleeve for not just the audience in the studio, but every semi-interested car fan across the globe. Ferrari had recently brought out the Ferrari FXX, developed in part with Michael Schumacher, and Ferrari only wanted their own drivers to drive the FXX around the Top Gear test track. So a plan was hatched. Schumacher would don the white suit for one episode, recording the lap in the Ferrari, then surprising the audience with a reveal. It was scripted, we all knew that. But the slow walk, that was Michael. The suspense and anticipation, that was Michael. And then once they were on the stage, the refusal, that was Michael. Nobody told him to do any of that. He just understood the assignment, which meant this moment became iconic.
They want to see. It's coming. Is it Susan Boyle? Is it Susan Boyle? Oh my God! Stand up! Look who it is! The Daily Mail was wrong! Oh my God! Oh, you've got a head and ears! You've everything!
After this, the attention seemed to get taken off Ben. It was such a monumental moment that the world seemed somewhat satisfied with the reveal, even if later that episode they clearly insinuated that it surprisingly wasn't actually Michael all this time.
I don't think Michael Schumacher is the Stig.
Even though the attention had subsided, Ben still couldn't capitalise on the show's success, which was bigger than ever at this point. So Collins decided to tell his own story. He wrote The Man in the White Suit, His Life Behind the Visor, an in-depth look at his life, his story, and his experience as the Stig. Unsurprisingly, the powers that be weren't too fond of this little venture, so the BBC sued to block publication, citing confidentiality as the reason. But in 2010, the High Court refused the injunction. His identity was already public knowledge, and the court wouldn't stop the book. The attention was back on Ben, but this time with confirmation from the man himself that he had been under the helmet for the past 7 years. Top Gear responded very much in character. On the American road trip, the presenters took turns shooting at cutouts of the Stig, with Hammond shouting this.
So I can shoot him in the back, because that's how it's done, in the back, and then he'll be shot in the back. That's what I thought would be nice to do.
But during Ben's time as the Stig's family came to light in the show, with many international cousins taking part. Some of these were Ben, some of them were not. It's almost impossible to confirm which were him and which weren't, but I think I can say for certainty that the African Stig was definitely Ben and definitely not a local rally driver. But there were also a few Stig appearances outside of the cousins that weren't Ben. The time he drove a Renault F1 car around the test track, that was actually Heikki Kovalainen, Renault's then test driver for the F1 team. And the time the Stig rode a snowmobile down a ski jump for the winter special, that was actually professional snowmobile rider Dan Lang. But after Ben's tenure as the Stig, the horizon had changed. The show was in the stratosphere. The show needed a new Stig, but since their change from black to white, the Stig's helmet was the ultimate branding stamp of the show. So the question arose as to keep the white look or change it to another. After long deliberations, the team opted to stay with the now iconic white look of the Stig. But there was still the question remained of how do they introduce him. A farm of growing Stigs was chosen for the Top Gear live show to introduce the live audience to the new incarnation, but as for the TV reveal, a researcher came up with the idea of Baby Jesus Stig, and this new mysterious person now wore the most recognisable racing outfit in the world. For this version, Top Gear were faced with a difficult challenge. They needed a very quick driver, but someone that doesn't care about the limelight, so ideally an already established driver with nothing to prove. For years this mysterious person was never revealed, nor revealed themselves. Although people wanted to know, the attention never seemed to get as high as it was with Ben. For 14 years the Stig remained nameless, until Jeremy Clarkson finally revealed the secret.
The original Stig was Perry McCarthy, followed by Ben Collins, followed by Phil Keane.
Who's the current Stig?
Well, there isn't a current Top Gear, so there isn't a current Stig. But the last one was Phil Keane.
So, who is Phil Keane?
Hi, I'm Phil Keane and I'm from England.
A British racing driver best known for racing in the British GT Championship. Since his first season back in 2006, he's dabbled in almost all the manufacturers on the grid, but found a steady successful form with Lamborghini between 2016 and 2022. Over the course of his British GT career, he started over 130 races with 24 wins, 16 pole positions and 23 fastest laps. He also jumped into the European Le Mans Series, GT World Challenge, winning the championship on his first year, and many other series around UK and Europe. He was known for his speed, his consistency and his general approach to racing. And it was exactly these qualities, speed, consistency and total lack of interest in fame, that made him the perfect Stig. Unlike Ben Collins, Phil had no reason to seek the spotlight. He was already an established driver, respected in the paddock and happy to let the Stig character remain faceless. For over a decade, Keane wore the most famous race suit in the world. Whether it was throwing a hypercar around Dunsfold, training celebs in the reasonably priced car, or showing up the presenters in a film, Phil was the man under the visor. It's remarkable how long he kept the secret. His name never became public knowledge until Jeremy answered the question during the last Grand Tour episode screening. Phil Keane may have not written books, sued the BBC or been outed by the paparazzi, but that's perhaps why he lasted the longest. He simply got on with the job, drive fast, stay quiet and, as Richard Porter described, learned how to act like a Stig. Unfortunately, some of the Stig's cousins are almost impossible to confirm, but the people in this video are the ones I can say for certainty. Some say he's still out there, fighting scouts and standing menacingly. All we know is, this was the story of the Stig.